All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'll ask everyone to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Let the minutes reflect that 5 of the 7 council members are here. The other 2 are running late from a basketball game, so by the time we get done with the citizens forum, they should be here. First item of business on the agenda is the citizens forum. If anybody from the community would like to address the council, now would be the time to do so. As we wait, Kay, you are on the agenda, so you're good. In front of you guys is the accounts payable and the prepaid checks for November that we just got. So if you guys maybe wanna just browse through those as we're waiting for Crystal and Mike, now would be a good time to do so. Where's the game at? Junior high? Yeah.
I would just,
Oh yeah, I know. See that?
which one? I didn't see which one you circled.
This one. It's not brought to my attention today.
Well, he shouldn't be spending over $1,000, but he does have money in his, so.
Only 600 left is what I heard. He told Randy to save it till January to do it. Just not Okay, we'll move on. They can join us when they get here. Consent agenda. Let's update the amounts for C and D. The city prepaid checks in the amount of $303,082.92. Again, 303, 082 and 98 cents. And then letter D, the city accounts payable in the amount of 34,705 and 29 cents. Again, 34, 705.29. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay. Got a motion from Casey, second from Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Onto the agenda, we're gonna swap under presentations. We'll put Kay Markison first. She's got a donation request of $500, and we'll move More Engineering to B, so she doesn't have to sit here for all of that. Under Mayor's report, I just wanna talk quickly about 2023 committee appointees. Under new business, the resolution numbers should be 2022 instead of 2021. And then letter H will be a Ada Booster Club $500 request. And Sean, is Morgan not coming, so I can leave her under that?
Correct.
Okay. Any additions or subtractions from the rest of the agenda? I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion from Josh, second from Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, you're up first if you wanna come up and either stand or sit next to Kim if you want to, yeah, and introduce yourself and let us know what you're
I'm
looking
Kay
for.
Markison, and I'm here from St. Joe's. We have a group we call the St. Joseph Befrienders. We do projects for the city, people that have needs. And it's, some of it is to provide social things, others it's to provide material needs. And this year we wanted to do, we always do a Christmas project, and we want to do a Christmas project for the Wimmer Homes. And there is 18 residents. And I'll read this, but I'll leave it for you to pass it around. This is what we are proposing to put in we're gonna use a laundry basket as the gift basket because we think they need them. Warm socks, mittens, a new bath towel and washcloth, toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorant, hand soap, chapstick, shaving cream and razor, Band-Aids, fresh fruit, candy, nuts, and microwave popcorn. And I've kind of priced all of this out. We estimate the basket is going to be about $40 per person. That seems almost a lot when you think of what it is, but that's what the prices are. We do have some individuals that are going to, if we don't, if the $500 doesn't cover all of that, we have some individuals that will help us finish out the baskets. So that is what I'm asking for today.
Perfect. Need a motion from the council.
I'll make that motion to grant them $500.
Okay. And a motion from Sean, second from Casey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. There you go, Kay.
Okay.
Ashley, you
We'll
can.
get to the
We've
check.
been,
Yeah.
we've been talking, and I'll check in with you again tomorrow, Ashley.
Okay.
I'll just leave this, you can take a look at it, and thank you, we appreciate the help, and we think it's going to be a nice help for those residents.
Perfect. Thanks, Kay.
Thanks,
Thank you. I gotta go to the ball game.
There you go. Have a good night.
We just came.
Welcome, Mike. Welcome, Crystal. Brandon, you're up. More engineering. Yeah, if you wanna sit next to Kim or stand, whatever's comfortable. You guys have in front of you, the packet that Ashley sent out has got some information in there from the engineer's agenda. Brandon will discuss that a little bit, then Ashley and I will kinda discuss the meeting that we had with him and Tyson last week.
Yeah, first off, my name is Brandon Reber with Moore Engineering, helping Tyson out with the sewer project. So the sewer improvement project, kind of spot repair, relining, manhole improvements throughout town, bid on October 19th. And the bids came in above the engineer's estimate and above the budget. So we were looking at that about the $1 million range for say for an estimate, came in about 1.6 was the low bidder. There were two bidders, Celine Brothers and Spruce Valley Corporation. Celine Brothers was a low bidder at about 1.6, and so that's quite a bit above where the engineer's estimate was. So about 2 weeks ago, we had met to see how we could pull the project back in closer to where that budget number is. So with the pack you got in front of you, there's this little map right here. And so I'll kind of walk through the packet here. We had met kind of looking at, okay, what items came above budget, what items are kind of the low-hanging fruit that we can trim out, what changes can we make, and there were kind of two main changes to the project that would lower that price considerably. One was with all the manholes on the project, some of them were slated to be replaced, some of them were slated to have a rehabilitation done, which is a pretty in-depth rehabilitation. And so by switching all of the manholes that were slated for replacement to that in-depth rehabilitation, we can save like $300,000 just making that one change. And then there is a stretch of rather large 18-inch sewer that was supposed to be relined, that most of the relining costs, where they put a new pipe inside an old pipe, came in about right, but that 18-inch came in considerably above where it was. And I think it was just the location of it, the size of it, the type of work they had to do there. So if we remove that stretch and kicked it to a future phase, by making those two changes, we go from 1.6 down to just about 1.2. And so the original number that was sent to PFA for construction estimate was 1.1 with $50,000 contingency. So that 1.2 is right about where we're at there. After our meeting, we reached out to the attorney to make sure that that would be, something that we can do. Overall, he sees no issues with it. There's always some risk, but I had kicked that on to Ashley, and I overall pretty much on board with that. And then I spoke with the contractor about this specific change, and they will honor their price if we take these items out with everything else. So if you look at the other items in your packet, the first one would be a letter basically outlining what I'm saying here. It's kind of our recommendation to award. The second item is the bid tab. So you'll see the two bids from both Saline Brothers and Spruce Valley Corporation. You kind of see where those items came in at. And then the third item is what we call our engineer's statement of cost. So it's the cost, it's the estimated cost of the project. And I've got two numbers in there. I've got the bid price, which leads to a construction cost of about 1.6. I've got the proposed option here to bring it down, which brings us to about 1.2. And those are kind of side by side, so you can see that. And so what we would recommend, and what we'd kind of discussed, is awarding the project to Saline Brothers for that 1.6, contingent on two things. One, successfully obtaining funding from a PFA. And two, the first thing we would do would be to execute a change order with the contractor to bring that cost down to that 1.2. That matches that option that we had discussed. The one other thing that I would have to discuss is we had some conversation about debt repayment and possibly shifting some of the debt repayment in year one down for various reasons. And after talking with PFA, they're open to being flexible with that debt repayment. So if you wanted to reduce that number basically to save some money or move some money elsewhere for that year one, and then restructuring a little bit more on the back end of that. So that's an option that they've done before that they're okay moving forward with. So that's kind of everything from where we at today, kind of what we're recommending. Does anyone have any questions for me?
So I just want to, okay, we've obviously been talking about this project for over a year now, and some of our concern was when do we start this project, right, and when is the timeline? So when we met a couple weeks ago, we had talked to More Engineering about working with the PFA. So normally we were talking about restructuring or starting the project. Our debt retires in 2023, starting it so then we pay off in 2024, or we start our payments. We're talking about now extending that out another year. So construction and everything in the project will begin still in 2023, but the debt will be pushed back, or it would be a portion of our debt we would start paying.
Yeah.
And that way, those bond payments that are now retired, we can either put into our long-term capital, or we've obviously been talking about some larger purchases that the city needs to really seriously think about in the next year or two. So with that being said, I do recommend that we move forward with this project. I only think that it's going to increase over time. It's something that needs to get done within the city. And just so you guys are aware, we do have $173,674,000 on debt payments that then are not allocated for that year. So with a $2.7 million of bonds that are retiring. Just any questions on that, if that all makes sense to
So
you?
what was again, between the 1.6 and 1.2, what are you giving up, or what would you actually?
If you look at the map, Mike, that last page, it's that bottom blue portion.
Okay.
And we have talked with Brian and to make sure that isn't something that needs to do. So that doesn't mean it's never gonna get done. This is, remember, if we talked about different phases, this is just
Right.
phase one.
Okay.
So that portion will be moved down to a phase in the future.
And
I mean, if we're already there, is it better to go for it and just do it because you're there, or is it? I mean, or are we just pushing?
when we were in the meeting, Brandon was there, Tyson was there, and so was Brian, and
Mm-hmm.
all three of them agreed that is probably the least of our worries. So if we do another one in 2025 or 26 or whenever we decide to do that second phase, it's not gonna deplete that quickly. That
Okay.
it needs to be done right now, especially if we're trying to hit that target goal of 1-1.
Okay.
1-2's not that far away.
And part of this is understanding this is the first phase of multiple. If this was a one-off, hey, we're never coming back to this ever again, then we should have a different conversation about how to prioritize, and
Yeah,
maybe we
sure.
can spend.
Okay.
But knowing that, now we have a better idea of because this is more of a unique reline just because of the size and the location. Now we have a better idea of how to budget for it in a future phase,
Yeah.
and we can account for it at that point.
Okay.
Potentially doing Reikis, we don't wanna tie out the full 2.7.
a lot of the conversation that Ashley and I had, again, with Brian and Tyson and Brandon, was about the bond payments that are expiring next year. So again, like Ashley said, it's 2.7 million that we have coming off the books that we have to allocate and budget for every year. That'll be done in 2023. Now, I'm not saying in 2024 we need to spend that 2.7 million.
Well, it's not 2.7 million total in bonds.
Total.
176 payments per year.
So we need to,
Some, yeah.
we need to figure out, like Ashley said, if we wanna put it in long-term capital, if we wanna buy a new squad car or a skid steer. I mean, there's tons of things, as you guys know, sitting at this table for the last couple of years, that it seems like everything keeps popping up. So it's not like that money can't go to use, but it won't be going towards a bond payment at that time. And we still don't know what they're gonna require, whether it's 25%, 50%, or zero. You know, they might not do any of that, but at least we know that the good portion of it's not gonna be until 2025.
Yeah, and
Which is
they'll
the
work
next
with,
part.
they'll work with you on it.
Yeah.
You guys on that. If you decide to move forward with the project, then we'll have the conversation with PFA as to what does that number look like.
Yeah.
I gotta stop you. We gotta do truth and taxation at 6:15. It's
Oh, yeah.
6:16, so it'll be just 1 second.
No problem.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Brandon.
Not a problem.
Okay, so at 6:15, at 6:16, it's 6:15 still. We gotta have our truth and taxation meeting. If anyone from the public wants to address the council, now would be the time to do so. Yeah.
Good evening. I've never been to a city council meeting, so if there's some kind of protocol or something that I'm missing, I just ask for your forgiveness.
Sure. No, if you just wanna introduce yourself and
Yeah, my
you're
name
welcome.
is John Kendall. I've lived in Ada since 2005, but I've been living in my house since 2011. I'm about a third of the way through my mortgage. So the purpose of me being here today is just to kind of go over my, I just wanted to express about the property taxes. I'm not gonna stand here and pretend like I know what it takes to run an Ada-sized city. I don't. You know, I have no idea what you're up against. It sounds very technical. It sounds like there's, you know, some big projects and things, you know, coming up. And we all know that it takes money to run a city. Not debating that. Not asking to zero out the taxes or anything like that. Been a taxpayer here since my house anyway. I'm just asking for some consideration. If maybe you could please take a look at it and maybe attenuate the levy portion of it just a little bit at least. Like I said, I've never been to one of these. I've never felt like I've never had to, you know, come on board or anything, but people are hurting out there. I'm hurting out there right now. I mean, you guys know everything's going up and it phases people to different degrees depending on what their station is in life. You know, mine's not very high, but it's not the lowest either. You know, so I'm just trying to make it all work just like everybody else is. And I know that with the taxes, they've been kind of edging up over the past few years, and I've just, you know, tried to bite my tongue and not say nothing about it. My house recently got revaluated due to someone sold a property in my block, and it raises the overall valuation in the neighborhood. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It went up about 10,000. I'm not trying to whine about that. I'm just simply trying to say that it's the city portion is not even the biggest thing, but it's about $200, which, you know, and for some people, that might not be a big deal at all, you know, and that's fine. For me, it kind of is because of this. Not in any one year that's a showstopper. It's just that cumulative. I wanted to retire in my house, and I'm concerned that eventually, if it keeps on, you know, the way it is, that you project that out 17 years into the future, which is when I can retire, am I going to be able to retire in Ada, or am I going to be priced out beforehand? That's a concern that I have, you know. And so I just wanted to bring that up, and just when you're doing these levies and you have the taxing authority and stuff, you know, please try to keep some of that in mind, that if people are, you know, hurting out there. I mean, you all know everything in the stores is a lot higher than usually is. I'm paying prices I thought I'd never see on, some rather common things.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, milk and bread,
Yeah.
So I'm not here to throw daggers at you guys or anything like that. Just please give us a little bit of consideration on some of those levies.
Yeah.
That you're dealing with. Like I said, I don't know what you're dealing with as far as running the city. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here. That's all I really had to say. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
I'll say two things just before we go back to Brandon. John, I think you're the first person since I've been at this table that we've ever had attend a truth and taxation meeting. So
Yep.
first and foremost, thanks for,
No,
right?
that one year we had Tim Wagner.
Oh, that's right.
You're the
Did
first
all
civil person that we've had attend the truth and taxation meeting. So thank you for that.
You catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. I can't say that I'm very happy about the economic situation, but that's not for the city of Ada, that's the entire country.
Sure.
really. And, everyone's feeling it.
Yeah, well, and the second part, if you wanna stick around, we're gonna get to our levy here shortly. You're more than welcome to sit around and listen, but, we have a good discussion tonight. I think Ashley's given us a couple different options that we're gonna go over and that, we'll make some recommendations for, so if you got nothing else to do tonight, you're more than welcome to stay.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and take off, cause I'm not,
Sure.
like I said, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm even gonna understand the ramifications and
Sure.
all of the things that, that you're talking about, so I'm gonna leave it in your hands.
Perfect, well, thank you for coming and talking to the council.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and take off, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And, I bid you all a good evening.
All right, thanks, John. Anything on Facebook?
Nope.
Okay, Brandon, you're back up.
Okay, well, I think where we had left off there is, does anyone have any questions as to kind of where we're at today, what the option of bringing it down entails, and kind of the next steps moving forward? You do have to make a decision whether to move forward or reject bids and look to do something else tonight, just because of, once you receive a bid, you only have so many days where you can hang on before you have to make a motion, before you have to move on it. So tonight would be a decision point, and so one of the options, and the one that we've discussed, and the one that I guess we are recommending as the engineer, would be to award the contract to Celine, who was the low bidder, under two conditions. One is obtaining successful funding from a PFA, and two, with the understanding that the first thing we do is issue that change order to bring it down to that 1.2. And that's actually spelled out in the notice of award, which is the document that officially awards it. Those contingencies are listed on there. Again, we can slightly change them if there's any changes to be made, and it's also spelled out in the letter here.
I'll make the motion to move forward with that.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I got a motion from Josh, second from Casey with the contingencies
Yep.
that Brandon spoke about.
Exactly.
Does anyone have any questions about this project or about, obviously the map is on the last page that you guys can all look at, and it doesn't take much to drive around town and see the problem areas, but they're all documented pretty good on this map. Does anyone have any questions for Brandon while he's here? Okay, I got a motion from Josh, second from Casey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Awesome.
And that's,
Do you want the signed copy?
I would love it, yeah,
Okay.
'cause then I can send it off.
Yeah.
But while I'm here, anything else? Say for me, that's kind of all I got, that's kind of all I got going, and, but I'll work forward on next steps, getting contracts executed with contractor, working with PFA to get that funding secured, and then determining what that debt repayment looks like.
Perfect. Awesome.
Alright, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Moving on to mayor's report. Just one quick item. Obviously, I have to set the committees for by our January meeting. So if anyone at the council table has any recommendations or changes that you guys want to be on any different committees, with the exception of Crystal for next calendar year, let me know. and,
She wants to be on as a community member.
oh,
though.
she just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah. Thank you, by the way.
Talk later.
And if there's anyone from the community that would like to
I think
be
you
on
should
one of
miss
our
that.
5 committees,
I would.
we have a couple open spaces moving forward too. So I'll reach out to you guys before the end of the year and make sure everyone's comfortable with where they're at and go from there. So administrator, clerk, treasurer's report.
Alright, a couple updates. First of all, the Deco Center, a ton of stuff going on over there. So she got swimming lessons going on. She does have 2 lifeguard applications finally. One of them's younger than the age requirement, and the other one's working on trying to get their endurance up to being able to pass the preliminary test. But we've got 2, and we're hoping to move forward with them. So we have that. If you guys haven't seen her fundraiser that she's been doing, she does have something set up at Laughing Earth for a small donation to the Deco Center. We're still working on getting funding for that hot tub. So she's been doing little things throughout the year to help with that, and we will continue to do that. The fundraiser, I don't have a certain amount of. I know over the weekend of Old Fashioned Christmas it went really well. I don't know the exact number of what it is. But I'll check with that and I can send it out and let you guys know. Just coming up, she will be closed the 24th and 25th of December, along with the 31st of December, and then January 1st as well. In case anyone's wondering, the steam room is up and running, and it's running very well. They had to do a reverse osmosis system installed in there. But it's up and running. Volleyball's going on. She's still doing her toddler tots class. So lots of activity going on there, which is awesome. They've also gained 2 additional sponsors since we last updated. So the Ada Felton Country Store and then RDO is now sponsors of it as well.
Nice.
So yeah, she's doing awesome over there. While we're talking about the Deco Center, I want to talk about the donation fund, and then I want to talk about the Deco Center. So right now, after tonight, we will have $2,500 remaining in our donation fund, and that's without November or December's donations as of this time.
Community club thing?
Or community club. Yep. So we will expect probably anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 for November, and same with December. If not more, those are probably 2 busier months. With that being said, we have quite a substantial amount sitting still in that fund. We are allowed to use the donations towards our city parks, our city activities, things like that. I would like to take $1,500 out of that and place it with the Deco Center for 2 things. One, if you guys have been up there for inflatables, you know it's like a huge thing in our community. Our slide has been out of commission for months. She has tried everything possible to, between glue and sewing it and all these certain things, and it does not. So if you've been up there and you see it, you know it has to be one long thing. We're looking at anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 to replace that. So that's one thing, and then the other thing we need to do is the AEDs, their pads and their batteries are expired. It needs to be replaced, and that total is $373 to replace those. So I'm asking for some of the donation funds, since we're probably going to be sitting at over $5,000 left at the end of the year to use towards the Deco Center to help with some of those community activities.
Do you want that next month?
No, I want it this month.
Okay, that was. Didn't know if you needed.
Well, we'd like to try to get that slide replaced as soon as possible. She has some funding left that she can use, but we'd like to add additional funding to it.
I'll make the motion that we,
$2,000.
do that $2,000.
$2,000?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second it.
I got a motion from Josh and a second from Crystal. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Liquor store sales, we were up only $909 in October from 2022 from 2021. So it was a little bit short of a month. We've been seeing increases anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000, all the way up to $6,000. So 909 is a little bit less. However, still a positive. We're still seeing an increase. So that's good there. Public Works, you've probably seen them out there working on snow plowing. The payloader is not in the shop yet. Brian's checking with them every other day to make sure it gets going, but it's not in the shop as of now. I think today was the very first day that they've had to take out the payloader that they're renting from Vissers. So we luckily haven't had to use it as much. But they're busy doing all sorts of snow removal. I will try to keep the community updated as much as possible on Facebook when we know times and dates and what they're doing and streets and all that like we've done in the past. So our community can kind of keep up to when those snow plows are coming by. With that being said, I just want to remind everyone of the parking. 24 hours, we will put a ticket on, we will tow, so please be mindful of our snow plows. Police department, so our new guy has been training in now, Alex, for almost 3 full weeks. So it's going great. He's been riding with Bruce, he's been riding with Steve, he's been riding with Gunner, our part-time as well. So he's getting a little bit from all. He is officially moved. He's living in the apartment. So I don't know if any of you have met him, but he's been out and about quite a bit. And we've had a lot of calls this last month, if you saw our call log. So it's been busy. Any questions on our departments? All right, home rehab grant. Let you guys all know this, I think, already, but just want to kind of go over the process moving forward. So if you guys remember, we did get awarded $509,000 for the home rehab project that we've been working on for the last 2 years. At this time, we have just signed the contract. It was sent off to the state. So now they said anywhere between a month to 60 days we'll be receiving the funds. So the funds actually come directly to us. In the meantime, every application or letter of interest that I have received has been sent over to the Minnesota Housing Department. They're going through the list. They're all numbered and dated as to when they came in. So we have some that are all the way back to like 2020. Yeah. And so they are going through and calling each individual, setting up a time with them if they still need that work done. If they still live in that house even, and things change. They're setting up an appointment with them. They'll come out. They do have a building inspector that will be with them. If the project deems qualified for this, then they'll give them the application that is going to determine their income, because remember, it is income based. And then from there, they'll work with the homeowner to get the contractors lined up. Now, it is the homeowner's responsibility to do all these things. They do have some responsibility. But the homeowners will get help from the Minnesota Housing Department, because as we all know, it's hard to find contractors, it's hard to line up work, things like that. So that's the process. In the last 2 weeks, I've received another additional 10 to 15 letters of interest. We're up to over 60 letters of interest. Obviously, not all are going to be able to get this, but hopefully a good chunk of them will. Any questions on that?
Is there a limit that each homeowner?
25,000. Yep. But still, if you look at that, I mean, you're only looking at about 20 to 25 homes. And not every application will need the full 25,000. And again, not every application that I have will qualify either.
Mhm.
There's a lot of there's more qualifications than just writing that letter of interest. So, there's no hurt to, at this point, if someone's still interested, to get their letter of interest in, still can do it. It just might not make the list, so.
The other nice thing, and Ashley's mentioned this in the past, the city of Ada itself does not have to facilitate any of this. We don't have to approve or deny any of these individuals that are applying for it. So, even though we have the money, all we're doing is cutting a check. We don't have to, again, approve or deny any of these applications, which is nice.
Or do any of the home inspecting.
Yeah, that's,
Yep. Next, so I put this on there because I've had some questions about it. But obviously the Minnesota state law has passed the THC guidelines, so bars and restaurants and convenience stores and things like that can now sell THC. So there has been some questions about what the city plans to do as far as moving forward. Basically right now, because we have no ordinance in place regarding THC, we can either just follow Minnesota state law, wipe our hands, say it's up to them, or we can look at, like we've done with, example will be approving our cigarette licensing tonight, so we can look at assessing licensing and fees onto those. So really, before this becomes something, or before we get questions asked from the bars and restaurants and the convenience stores, I need to know from the council if it's something that you guys wanna look forward and actually put on a permit, or a license fee.
Keep in mind, and I asked Ashley tonight when I got here, like our cigarette license is $12 a year. We're not talking a huge amount of
No.
money.
Right.
It's more of a formality than anything.
Yeah,
It's just like a liquor license or anything.
like our,
That's the
yeah,
way to do it, yeah.
yeah. But if we do this, it's gonna entail a new ordinance, which means we have to do the first reading, the second reading, and then the 30 days. So it's gonna be a 90-day process. So before we move forward, I need that advice from you guys of what you guys wanna do.
And you got businesses.
Zero.
Okay, so if it is 90 days, it's.
We have time,
Yeah.
but John and I have been talking about it, and we just, if we wanna do something, we should get ahead of it
Yeah.
before it becomes something in town.
It was brought to my attention, the city of Foston, there are 2 bars and or restaurants. I can't be specific on what they are, but they both got the THC drinks in them now. So the city of Foston came up with an ordinance, and that's why Ashley and I started talking about this.
Wow.
So,
There's not a lot we can do as far as restricting, because
Right.
they can follow Minnesota state law.
Right.
But we do have the power, if it's something we wanna do, again, we would have to discuss, and we can send it to public safety if we wanna send it to that committee and get some ideas on what we wanna do as far as fees go, and how we wanna, if we want annual license or one-time license, or what we wanna do, we could send it there. Or if you guys, if anyone has a suggestion here and now,
The cigarettes are yearly and 12
they're
months.
annual $12.
seen all of our licenses are, so that would be my recommendation for you
So
guys too.
stay the same,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say we wanna keep it the same as those.
All
Is the
annual.
liquor, does that fall underneath their liquor license, or is that gonna be a separate
They're
one?
separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if they wanna sell them, they're gonna have to get, obviously, another one.
You think that's what Foston did? Do they have a fee? Or, I mean,
They have an ordinance.
have-
oh, I have an ordinance.
I
okay.
don't know if they have a fee.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say you should keep it the same or close to what a cigarette or anything, like little gambling one, you know, those. vending
The
machine ones.
gambling are $5
The
each.
You know, that vending machine one, you know, something like that.
And again, I think it's more of just a checks and balance than a way to
Yeah.
police. It doesn't need to be a big amount. It just, you know, you guys can pick whatever amount, whatever you guys want. But, I mean, if you guys all agree, which it looks like by the head nods it is, I don't think we have to send it to public safety. If you guys just wanna.
Yeah.
Somebody wanna throw
What
out
kind of price,
yeah, a price?
$20. Anyways.
Okay, I got a motion from Casey for a $20 THC license, annual. Do I have a second?
One second.
Okay, I got a second from Scott. Any further discussion? So again, Ashley will write up, ordinance. We'll have our first, second reading, and again, it'll be a 90-day window, but,
Is there a date? So like, sorry, for example, our cigarette ones are in December, they're due, our liquor ones are in April. And it'd be just easy to do it in December? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to Kaleidoscope. I talked to, Mark this afternoon, 9 o'clock on Thursday, Josh and Sean.
Yeah, sure.
And then January, Ashley and or I will come up with a new,
You said Thursday, like,
Thursday at 9, yeah. And we already did the, truth and taxation, and then, since Morgan is not here, Sean is gonna be lucky enough to read off the letter that is in your guys' packet. Here, I got mine if you need them.
My name is Morgan Rue, obviously it's not. I'm a 10th grader, who's a member of Grace Lutheran Church. Our youth group is raising money to fund a trip this summer to Wisconsin Dells. On this trip, we will be going to the water park, but plan to also set aside time for, aside time to give back to those in need, packing meals for feeding my starving children, and other community events. Doesn't say this, but I know that's in the works. We can find a way home. Each youth member needs to contribute $350 to help with the expenses of the trip, along with raising money through serving meals, selling pies, etc. I am asking if you would consider donating towards this trip.
So this would be towards the whole group, obviously not just to Morgan herself, so.
I was
correct.
told that
You can do individual, it's
Yeah.
300 for
If they wanted, they
individual,
could
it's
come.
500 for
Yep.
group.
Okay,
so. They all have the same option as her or anybody really.
perfect, okay,
That's what we've done in the past for like 4-H
Yeah.
trips and that kind of stuff.
okay. So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 300.
300 or 350?
350.
Bucks.
350, I think Josh is what he said, right?
Is that what we?
No, it's 300.
You have-
Oh, 300,
you
okay.
have
It's, sorry, it's
300,
300.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I
I
got a
think
vote.
that's what we do for.
mhm.
Individuals?
All
Yeah.
individuals are 300,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Okay, so I got a motion from Josh for 300, do I have a second?
Second it.
Okay, I got a second from Crystal. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sean will abstain.
Yeah.
Motion passes. Okay, annual cigarette, license renewal. You guys have a list in front of you. There's 3 of them, obviously Petro Service, Ada Country Store and Dollar General. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion from Sean, second from Josh. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, letter E, resolution 2022-12-01, the resolution setting the final tax levy for 2023. In front of you guys is the levy increase totals. Ashley's got 2 sheets here for you guys. You've also had it in your packet, the longer version. When we met in in September, we set a preliminary, budget of 5%. I asked Ashley to put 4% on your guys' table tonight. If you listened to John tonight when, he was here again, the people that are hurting are the ones on a fixed budget. I know it's not a lot of money. It's only $5 a year, to the difference of 45.53. But my recommendation for the council would be moving forward with a 4% levy.
Can I just iterate one more? I know that most of the council, that I did have one conversation today with council members, so I just want everyone to make sure that you guys understand, when we say a 4 or 5%, that's not a 4 or 5% increase on your property tax. It's a 4 or 5% increase from what you were paying last year just to the city,
Yep.
not as a total. Because I think that confusion gets out there that
Yep.
when we say a 5% increase, people are thinking that their home has a 5%
Yep.
property tax increase. So like John mentioned, a 5% increase would be roughly $26.16 a year. That's roughly for a $250,000 home. A 4% would be $21 a year. So with the 4% increase, you'd say average homeowners would save $5.16 per year.
Is 4% realistic with department heads and?
Well, when we
That's
talk
the
about
thing
the
with it,
budget
yeah.
next, you will see that this budget this year is hard. And you'll see
That's-
we have
that's my con-
surpluses in all areas. We don't have the surpluses that we'd like to see. But again, a $4,553 difference between 5 and 4 is not gonna make or break our budget. We can do a larger transfer from utilities.
Yeah.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the 4% increase.
Okay, I got a motion from Casey.
Second.
I got a second from Scott. Further discussion.
Yeah, I think you said it's not gonna make or break it.
It's not gonna make or break. However, the one thing I will say, and I know that everything, but you know, the city itself also has to, I mean, we take on all the increases as well. So fuel, costs, parts, everything that we do. So you'll see when we do the next phase of this budget discussion, where our surpluses are so much lower and our expenditures are so much higher, because of that. And we also approved a 7% COLA increase as well. So, I do think that a 4% this year is, we can do it, and we're already cutting where we can, and we're already gonna have lower surpluses, but the reality is, we're not always gonna be able to do a 4 or 5% levy increase. Costs are just skyrocketing, and as a city, we still have to be able to afford those things too. Or we have to cut certain items that get done, whether it's, you know, items that are normally maybe done on a regular basis or things like that. And that's something that we'll have to discuss in the future. I just want to preface that because when we look at the budget, you guys will see how much our expenditures increased. And it's not, it has nothing to do with anything other than actuals. It's not like any other like items that are just wants, so to speak. So.
Another thing to kind of reiterate what Ashley just said, and you know, when John was talking earlier, he saw the tax assessed value that we all got in the mail on our properties. That is not the levy.
No.
That is not the taxes. And I had a couple individuals reach out to me in the last week knowing that the council meeting was coming up, being scared of that number, where some of their properties went up 200, 300, 400%.
Right.
That's not the taxes. So I think we need to keep that in mind too. And the majority of it is not us. So with that being said, I got a motion from Casey and a second from Scott. Any further discussion on the 4% levy for resolution 2022-12-01?
My
Right.
concern is if we keep trying to decrease the levy, I mean, we went so long without doing anything. I don't wanna get back to that, and I think staying at the 5% would probably be a better idea. I know it's not a whole lot going either way, but that'd be my concern is just,
4553, Josh.
yeah.
One more year. And then I'm gonna ask you next year, I'm gonna do it one more year, and then we're gonna use.
And then we're gonna say no to you finally.
No,
That's the way
no,
it should have been.
And then we're gonna use some of that expiring bond payments to kind of, fulfill some of our, accounts. How about that?
That's just my concern is,
Yeah, I
with
agree.
everything else going up, it
Just
makes
don't wanna
me
get
nervous.
short. Yeah.
It makes me nervous trying to, keep cutting and cutting and cutting.
You guys just gave the fire department 25 grand on that, and you're worried about $4,553? If you wanna argue, I'll argue.
Yeah, but we're taking that away from the city now, actually, so, the $5,000.
Yeah,
I don't know, Ashley, what do you want?
but we took 25 grand out of the COVID funds, Mike.
What's that?
We took 25 grand out of the COVID funds we could've used elsewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can play devil's
About
advocate all
it.
night. This isn't a perfect world.
No, I know
Um,
it isn't. It definitely isn't right now.
That,
I think that, okay, we can do the 4%. I do wanna state out there that most communities around us are doing 10, 12, 15% increases. They're huge. So I'm not saying that, yeah, again, $4,500 isn't a huge difference, but when we go into the utilities, you will see that we had to do an additional $156,000 in transfers than what we normally do. We've always been at the same transfer amount for the last 5 years, and now we're having to do a huge transfer to make up the differences. So $4,500 isn't a lot here, but when we start taking out a utility is, because our utilities are increasing, your guys' decision.
Yeah,
We
but
can
it's
make it
gonna-
4%.
Is it gonna work though?
Gonna work.
Okay, I mean, if it's not gonna work, we shouldn't do it and you have to.
4%,
also correctly.
4,500 is not going to in the
Okay.
long, I'm just saying,
I know.
it's not something sustainable, like
Right.
Josh is mentioning.
I mean, it sounds good, it feels good, I wish we could cut back too, but if we can't, we've cut back way too long in this city and now we broke a lot of stuff that has to get fixed in our run and unfortunately that's kind of a bummer, but like I said, if you think it's not gonna work, well, we should do something different, but
Well,
I agree, I'd like to
We've-
Gail cut
We've
something.
been lucky for the last 3 years, we've
Yeah.
had COVID
Well,
funds.
that's, yeah,
And
Yeah.
the
The
COVID
big
funds
thing,
have covered
we've
a
been
lot
lucky.
of
yeah.
maintenance and items that we would normally have to take out of our own budget. And we're very lucky that we've had those funds to help cover. But we do know that there's a lot of things coming down the line. I mean, a lot of pieces of equipment, and that was part of the reason why we're looking at restructuring our bond payments for this next project, is to help. Now, by no means are we sitting in a bad position, we're sitting in a very
Sure.
well positioned still. So
Yeah.
4,500 this year is not going to change anything. I just wanna reiterate, when we look at our budget, it's a very tight, and the surplus is very, very minimal. So this year, there's not a lot of extra purchases gonna be happening.
Yeah.
We don't have the COVID funds to cover it.
And I'll say this, I think, just looking at some of the spending, I think we need to do a better job budgeting for these expenses. Certain department heads, I think, need to,
We've been saying that for a long
yeah, we need to get better at, this hasn't been budgeted for, and, if it hasn't been budgeted for, it's not gonna work. Whether it's this year or 5 years from now, I think each department head needs to sit down and really look at, what's coming up in the future, and we need to do a little bit better planning.
The big part is we know that we've ran into the last couple months, it's not about budgeting for, the expenses or the big items. It's the what ifs, it's the
Yeah.
payloader going down or the
Right.
steam room going down, it's everything in between. And like Ashley said, we've been fortunate enough to have these COVID funds. We are gonna be fortunate enough, hopefully, to have a portion of that $173,000 of our expiring bond payments in 2024
And we have a very large long-term capital built up. I mean,
that
we're
we have not spent.
Yes,
in-
we're not sitting in a bad position by any means.
When we sat with Brandon and Tyson 2 weeks ago, Ashley and I and Brian, we were actually talking about the money that we have spent out of long-term capital, and I think this year, I mean, it was minimal.
It was under 40 grand.
Yeah, it was under $40,000 out of our long-term capital, 1 and 2. So I mean, it's not like we're dipping into that, and again, part of it has to do with the COVID funds. Part of it has to do with the budget, but, we're not sitting in a bad place. And again, I don't think $4,500 is too much to ask for, again, the equivalent of $5.16 per year.
I feel like some of that stuff we wouldn't have bought, we would have had to push it off without the COVID.
There's some things,
some.
yeah.
Or we
There's-
would've used
there's-
long-term capital.
There's
Or we would've had to
definitely,
if we had to.
there was definitely wants
Yep.
in that list, you're
Yep.
correct.
That's what I would call them.
Well, why don't we, okay, if we're still deciding this, why don't we talk about the budget a little bit? I did put on you, in front of you guys, just kind of the basic numbers. And I also sent you guys all of the account information.
I'm gonna take
Thanks,
off.
Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Right.
So if you guys wanna just look at the sheet first that I gave you, so the biggest thing you can see is obviously the general fund is what we work out of the most, right? That's where all of our departments lie in, except for electric, water, and sewer. As you can see, like, our surplus this year is less than half of what we would normally like to see. And that's with a rather large transfer. So then if you go, I know there's gonna be a million sheets, so I'm sorry to go back and forth, and there's a lot. But if you go to the expenditure budget account and the revenue budget account, you'll see in the revenue one that there's a transfer of $156,000. And we normally do, like 117. What am I looking at here? Transfers in, or sorry. 591, we normally do 426, so what I meant is there's a $165,000 increase in that transfer. However, if you go back to the sheet that I gave you, just the basic numbers, you can still see in our electric fund, we're still gonna have a higher surplus in there than what we did last year with that lower transfer. So that's what I'm saying when we're still sitting fine. And we could essentially do a larger transfer into our general fund if we'd like to increase that surplus, but I do think it's important to try to follow our budget and only spend what we need to spend this year and keep that surplus low, and knowing that number is low will maybe help us keep a better eye on it. But we can do a larger transfer if you guys would like to see a bigger surplus in that. Water and sewer, we don't do any transfers from, that's the revenue that we make, the surplus there. Same with liquor. Liquor has never really been a huge surplus for us, but that's what we hopefully stand to make. So, with that being said, the only changes when it comes to the expenditure, the revenue, the big changes are obviously the LGA money that we get every year. That's the majority, and then the transfer. The rest of it's pretty straightforward down the sheet. The expenditures, the big ones, are obviously the COLA increases, cause that infected everybody's wages, FICA, para. Workman's comp shot up a lot. Our premiums did. And, then the, fuel is another big one, and then the other one is, we'll talk about that in a minute. So, so if you can see the expenditures, like, we didn't do anything above and beyond.
And
I
again,
know it's a lot of paperwork to look through,
and
I'm
a lot of it
sorry.
has to do with the COVID funds still too. You know, again,
Mhm.
Ashley's done a really good job of facilitating some of that money where we would otherwise had to take it out of long-term capital or move it from, you know, account to account, but, yeah, any further discussion or questions for Ashley about the budget?
Again, I know it's a lot of sheets to go through. But
Okay, I got a motion from Casey and a second from Scott. Any further discussion? Resolution 2022-12-01, resolution setting the final tax levy of 4% for 2023 calendar year by roll call vote. Mike?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Crystal?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Casey?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Resolution 2022-12-01 is passed. Moving on to resolution 2022-12-02, the final budget adoption for 2023.
so before we pass this budget, I do wanna propose something. I know we are talking about reducing what we put on to our customers, but, we currently are at a $16,000 loss in our garbage collection fees. That is just garbage collection. That does not include the surcharges or cleanup week. With that being said, next year it's projected to increase even more. Our contract states that it goes up each year, by a percentage. So, we have not increased our garbage rates since 2016. I am proposing that we do a 7% increase. It is $1.10 per month per customer. It's across the board the same. Everyone pays the same amount in garbage collection. So it's $1.10 per month. It's essentially $13.20 for the year, and that's gonna cover the deficit that we're in for garbage collection. Otherwise, the city is gonna eat those costs, which our garbage, I mean, the rates are supposed to, we don't make any money on the rates, but we do need to at least break even. The big thing we've seen this year is our surcharges, which we have not allocated to garbage fees. We've allocated to the miscellaneous, which we do cleanup week. As you know, the city covers the 100% of the cleanup week. We do not put that back onto the community members. And this year we have not put the surcharges back onto the community members as well. But once gas hits $3.25, Al's Disposal charges us. And so it went from at the beginning of this year to $300 a month to $1,500 to $2,200 a month in surcharges that the city is eating right now. And that's a huge expense on us that we did not budget for. With that being said, I don't wanna have to do both, increase in surcharges and, cause all of our customers do get $1 surcharge if you look on your bills already, and that covers just the daily, or the average monthly, but I would like to do the 7% increase in garbage fees.
Is 7 enough going forward?
7 will be enough to cover not the surcharges,
Yeah.
but it'll be enough to cover the rates, for 2023.
What is that percent?
So if gas stays where it is, we're probably looking at more like a 10% increase.
And I'm guessing it's diesel, just so everybody knows.
Mhm.
Because them trucks run on diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, just so they're on this.
so,
Gas and diesel are way different.
I definitely can run those numbers. I just didn't know if we would wanna put that big of an increase onto our customers. So right now, if you look, we're over in our cleanup week. Let's see, it's on page 4. So in our garbage contract fees, we're over, and this is what I'm talking about, but in our garbage miscellaneous expense, we budgeted $27,000 for this next year. We budgeted 25 for this year, and we're at 29,390. So, it's
I'd make a motion
definitely
to
up to
do
you
the
guys.
7%, if you're comfortable with that. I'd do
Yeah.
an increase of 7% on
I'll
garbage.
second that.
Okay, I got a motion from Mike and a second from Josh to approve the final, budget adoption with the change of 7% increase for garbage, right, Mike?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So that'll increase on our revenue side, and I'll send out those packets, and that'll obviously make our surplus a little bit more as well.
So
And-
then the surcharge still, the city's still gonna just keep eating that down the road then?
For next year,
Yep.
if it
Fuel's
doesn't
down.
decrease,
Hopefully
if
fuel
it
goes
doesn't,
down.
so it's never been an issue, the surcharges that are covered on your utility bill already have covered it. This is the first year it hasn't because of the fuel prices. So if it does continue next year, I probably will be increasing.
Rates are gonna keep going up anyway, so we'll probably have to revisit this anyway.
Well,
That
in another
4,500 that we
year,
talked earlier.
we'll have a Al's disposal contract negotiation.
Ooh, ooh. Stick it in, even twist it a little harder.
That bolt's been counted already.
That's all the question.
Alright, resolution 2022-12-02, the final budget adoption for 2023 with the, change of, increasing the garbage rate 7%. I got a motion from, Mike and a second from Josh by roll call vote. Mike?
Aye.
Scott? Aye. Josh?
Aye.
Crystal?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Casey? Kim?
Aye.
Resolution 2022-12-02, the final budget for 2023 is approved. Committee updates, Public Works.
Yeah, we met, a lot of the discussion was about the sewer project we had coming up that we discussed about earlier tonight. We also visited quite a bit on the loader, so Ashley informed us that they still haven't got it in out at RDO yet. Hopefully we're able to get that in there soon. We're very fortunate that Brian is working with Fissers and stuff, and the rental agreement that we have is very favorable for the city. We appreciate that. Hopefully winter's kind to us. In the meantime, we don't get a lot of snow. But we also brought up about how we've also stuck 55 grand into that loader in the last 2 years into these repairs. And the loader was actually budgeted for, as one of those purchases that we wanted to look at making here, these last few years. It is a 17-year-old loader with 8,100 hours on it. But unfortunately, that street sweeper taking a dump on us kind of changed plans. So kind of like Ashley was alluding to earlier, these unexpected ones are what's making the budget so hard. But it's also something that we wanted to look at going down the road, looking at trade-in values and everything else going forward. The lead time on them is probably around 8 months to a year on a new loader right now, so, something we just wanna make everybody aware of. Brian's kinda just looking around at stuff and different options still.
Sure. What is a new one? What would it be, ballpark? I mean,
250,
okay.
My concern about that too is like, okay, we get the motor put in, it's gonna say the transmission doesn't go to heck.
And
That's
then
about the only thing that hasn't been redone.
Yeah,
Well, that's
so-
about it, or else yeah.
And the trouble is, it's probably the most used piece of equipment out
Mhm.
there at Public Works.
Exactly.
And that's why it is kinda high on the priority list for Brian
Sure.
right now, so it's just to keep everybody informed on what we're looking at going forward.
Okay. Public Safety?
We actually did not meet.
Apparently didn't meet.
We were there, but we didn't have anybody in there.
Okay.
So I'm guessing they had a call or something. I haven't heard.
Yeah,
Beautification?
they did. I
Yeah.
loved it.
We met and basically discussed, what we wanna plan for next year. It was basically a planning meeting.
EDA?
We met and talked about the, funds update on some of the current loan payment standings, and some of the issues we're having with some of the borrowers getting behind on payments. So we talked about that a little bit. Ashley updated us on the home rehab grant. We had a storefront grant application and a demo application that was received, and that's about it.
Perfect. And then, we got a $500 donation request from the Ada Booster Club for the upcoming basketball tournaments. I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion from Sean and a second from Casey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Alright, next month. Okay, I got a motion from Crystal,
Second.
second from Josh, all in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.
And Crystal get her severance package and. pay
Oh, no,
back?
so here's the deal.
No?
I asked